Subscribe for all stories dangerous, weird, or altogether unexplainable. Have a weird or scary true story? Leave in the comments section for a chance to be in a video. I saw an alien, no joke. To this day I still wonder if I was somehow tripping on something I ate on accident or something. I was about 10 years old and was playing in my room by myself. It was about 11 PM. I had a sliding glass door in my room and the blinds were pulled back. Out of nowhere the automatic spotlight behind my house turned on. I looked to the sliding glass door and a figure started approaching the door. At first I thought it was my neighbor, who was older than me and about the same height. But as it got closer I realized it was something else. I remember it approaching the door slowly. It stopped at the sliding glass door for a few seconds and just started staring at me. It felt like an eternity passed by. I remember specifically how long it felt when in reality it was probably only a few seconds. I remember it was dark black. It had a rounded head just like you see in the movies and was about 6 feet tall, 2 arms 2 legs, really skinny. The thing about it is that it was so close to me right on the other side of the glass that there is no way I can have mistaken it for a human. I know what I saw. After a few seconds of staring at me it just turned to the side and walked away. Long strides. It went out of my view and I immediately ran out of my room and screamed for my mom. She didn't believe me. I had to sleep in my room that night knowing I had seen a legit alien a few feet away from me earlier. I'm 23 now and to this day I still get chills when I think about it. My eyes always start watering when I think about it. I know it wasn't a dream. I know what I saw. No one believes me. The thing that creeps me out the most was its demeanor. I remember it coming slowly up to me and walking slowly away. That's what scares me the most. Like there was no rush to it. It was just watching me. I don't really believe in aliens visiting Earth, so it's been hard to cope with. I think what I saw, if it really was an alien, is what some people call a gray. Except it was black. Fuck, I'm not sleeping tonight. Dude, I've seen the same exact thing. My story is a little different. I was driving home from a friend's one night when I was in high school and got completely lost. I had a truck behind me on the road so I wasn't too scared. Was already afraid of aliens before this. I kept my eyes in the rear view, keeping my eyes on this truck since I was hopelessly lost. Out of nowhere the truck is no longer behind me. There was nowhere for it to go. It disappeared in seconds. My car immediately died, battery on my phone completely drained, and I was stranded on this desolate back road. The only light available was the moon. About that time an alien walked in front of my car. It just stood there, same exact description that you gave. I watched it for an eternity. Once it crossed the road my car finally cranked back up and I was able to get my phone on. No one believes me. I will not walk off my back porch at night time. I do not get in my car alone at night unless I'm leaving work. And I always have my phone on my car charger. Not that that would have mattered. L, you are not alone, man. I've posted this twice before but figured it fits perfectly here, so it bears repeating. I was a big Pee-wee fan and loved it at first. In my room I had bunk beds, and I slept on the bottom bunk, and on the top I kept all of my favorite toys and stuffed animals. I'd often leave them in really weird formations after having battles and the like, but I always remembered to leave certain ones in certain places because they were my favorites, namely my Ninja Turtles and Pee-wee. A few months after getting this toy though, I started to have some really terrible nightmares about it. Not the "Are you afraid of the dark?" kind of early 90s nightmares for kids, but truly graphic and horrible dreams where someone had broken into our house and made me watch them torture my sisters and my parents while the doll just laughed. Scarring shit. So, I told my parents and they immediately got rid of it. This apparently just meant they hid it in the garage since I couldn't see the stuff stored up high anyways. A couple weeks later I woke up and all my Ninja Turtles were on the floor. Confusing, but maybe I shook the bed a bunch in my sleep. A few days after this my older sister woke my parents up, screaming about a dream she'd just had. It was nearly identical to the dream I had told them about, but I know she'd never heard about it. My parents knew as well and my mother looked genuinely horrified. I got screamed at for telling my sister about such horrible things, but once it became clear that I really hadn't told her, my mom looked even more worried. I watched her go into the garage, grab Pee-wee, put him in a trash bag and put him in the dumpster. For years I'd wake up and my stuffed animals would be in really odd places. In places I know I hadn't left them, in places I never would have left them. I was obsessed. When I was 12 I found the Pee-wee toy in a box in the garage. My mom said my dad must have come home, seen it in the trash and pulled it out. He doesn't remember ever doing that. He swears he didn't even know she threw it away, let alone try to pull it out. When I was around 10 or 11 I think, my friend and I went for a bike ride. We were neighbors and lived out in the country. We were on a particularly empty road, mostly woods and fields, not a lot of houses or people around. A large commercial van, the kind with the large rolling door at the back, if I recall correctly, was parked at the side of the road. My friend and I rode closer and the driver was out of the van and he asked us if we wanted some water. We said no thanks. He told us it was no big deal. He had lots in the back of his van. We just said no again and turned around and rode our bikes back home. I don't remember even telling my parents about it. Like by the time we got back home we went in the pool or something and totally forgot about it. I can only imagine why this guy was trying to get two young girls into the back of his van. It makes me cringe every time I think about it. I'm glad we were smart enough to know we needed to get out of there fast. When I was a kid we had a trampoline, which meant we always had friends over playing on it. One night my mom left to take a friend home. My brother and I were like 10 and 12 at the time, old enough, so we stayed outside playing when she left. We lived in a very dense subdivision, so the trampoline was on the only piece of grass between our back patio and an alleyway that ran behind the houses. It was just getting dark and a car passed through the alley and my brother waved emphatically at the driver. I jokingly scolded him saying, "Stop that! We might get abducted." Then from the bushes on the other side of the alley, a male voice said, "Yeah, you might get abducted." We bolted faster than I thought humanly possible from the trampoline and into the house. Peeking out the window on the back door we saw a middle-aged man in the bushes motioning for us to come out. We of course did not and instead locked all doors and ran upstairs to my brother's room and armed ourselves with a baseball bat and called our mom. She obviously called the police and sped home. When the police arrived they didn't find anyone in the bush. Their theory is that the college kids living on the other side of the alley were just playing a prank. There was a fence there, though, and that man was on our side of the fence and was not college age. So terrifying that that man had probably been watching us from that bush all evening. Chills to this day. This is probably not going to be seen, but that's okay. So my cousin used to be a divorce lawyer in Arkansas. He was representing the wife. Husband was abusive and kinda crazy. Well, husband starting believing wife was with my cousin. So he kidnapped my cousin, tied him up and put him in the basement, beat him and dripped acid on him for 3 fucking days. On the 3rd day husband said he would go get wife, make her watch cousin die then kill wife, so husband left. Cousin somewhat untied himself, got out of the house and rolled down the street until someone picked him up. The couple that found him were scared and dumped him into a Walmart parking lot and called 911. I was 5 or 6, and I was spending the night at a new friend's house. It might have been my first sleepover ever. Her name was Tammy, and her uncle was babysitting us. I was there maybe 30 minutes when he had us climb on his lap to look at pictures. I didn't know what I was looking at, got scared, and ran home. I didn't know to tell my mom what had happened. The blood-chilling part was the way she got on his lap and looked at pictures, which I still don't remember, hair and body parts I didn't have or recognize, as if she did it all the time, which I bet she did. As an 8-year-old kid walking to my friend's house, I saw my neighbor's cat that I would always feed and play with moments after it got hit by a car. Its intestines were spilled on the asphalt and it was trying to crawl off the road barely alive, and when I got close it looked me in the eyes with an odd sense of the joy an animal gets when it sees someone it's developed a connection with, and the pain of animal dying a horrific death. I stayed with it for the next 10 minutes or so, petting him until he passed away, and then sat on the side of the road crying for an hour. It still stuck with me to this day. I think of it, and the look in the cat's eyes, where I'd like to think it gained some sense of peace knowing that it didn't die alone and in pain and was someone they had developed a connection with the past 3 years. It looked like it was in immense pain and suffering until I arrived, and then there was a calm that came over him. Talk about loss of innocence though.